Listen, listen to the echo of a lost world. A world covered by eternal ice sheets, where the air was bitingly cold and the steppes stretched to infinity. This was the Ice Age, a fierce and magnificent chapter in the chronicle of our planet. In this harsh world, extraordinary creatures arose, giants of flesh and blood whose existence today seems to belong only to mythology. We have heard the stories of woolly mammoths, of saber-toothed cats with their deadly fangs. But today we will tell a story that is even more astonishing. A story of a creature unlike anything you have ever imagined. It did not possess the agility of a predator, nor the regal majesty of an elephant. It was a different kind of existence, an architecture of life built on absolute power and impossible scale. Imagine a creature larger than a full-grown African elephant, weighing up to 4, perhaps 5 tons. A creature that, when standing upright on its hind legs, could reach a height of 6 meters, or 20 feet, as tall as a giraffe, high enough to peer into the second-story window of a modern house. And its weapons were not fangs, but claws curved like scythes, growing up to half a meter long. Sharp enough to strip bark and powerful enough to fend off the most fearsome predators of the Ice Age. This was Megatherium americanum, the giant ground sloth. A gentle giant, an herbivore, but also an impenetrable living fortress. But the question that compels us is not just what was it? It is where did it come from? How could a branch of the sloth family, creatures famous for their slowness and arboreal life, give rise to such a magnificent terrestrial giant? What evolutionary journey, spanning millions of years, sculpted one of the most spectacular land mammals to have ever existed? Today we will peel back the layers of time, returning to the source to uncover the rise of a legend. This is the story of the ancestors of the giant ground sloth. Our story begins not with the beast itself, but with the land that birthed it. A land of isolation and unique character. Tens of millions of years ago, as tectonic collisions reshaped the planet, South America was torn away, drifting alone in the ocean. It became a colossal island, a locked evolutionary laboratory where life could develop according to bizarre and unpredictable scripts. Our story begins not with the beast itself, but with the land that birthed it. A land of isolation and unique character. Tens of millions of years ago, as tectonic collisions reshaped the planet, South America was torn away, drifting alone in the ocean. It became a colossal island, a locked evolutionary laboratory where life could develop according to bizarre and unpredictable scripts. In this splendid isolation, a strange fauna flourished, unlike anywhere else on Earth. Forget lions, tigers, or bears. South America had its own kings. There were terror birds like Forus racos, standing taller than a human, with beaks as sharp as hatchets, claiming the niche of apex predators. There were rodents the size of cattle, and notably, there were the armored mammals. Creatures like Glyptodon, which looked like a tank version of an armadillo, were encased in a solid, bony shell. They were mobile fortresses, a testament to evolution favoring defense in a world without large placental carnivores. And at the heart of this strangeness was a native superorder of mammals called Xenathra, a scientific name meaning strange joints, referring to the unique extra articulations on their vertebrae that strengthened their spines, a perfect trait for animals that specialized in digging and supporting great weight. Today, the descendants of this group include anteaters, armadillos, and of course, the gentle tree sloths. But in the past, it was this very group, Xenathra, that produced the most astonishing life forms, and the giant ground sloth was their masterpiece. It was in this isolated cradle, where the rules of evolution seemed to have been rewritten, that the first seeds for the birth of a giant were sown. An evolutionary journey was about to begin, a journey that would take a creature from the highest canopies down to the ground and transform it into a force of nature. It was in this isolated cradle, where the rules of evolution seemed to have been rewritten, that the first seeds for the birth of a giant were sown. An evolutionary journey was about to begin, a journey that would take a creature from the highest canopies down to the ground and transform it into a force of nature. Life in the trees was safe. It offered abundant food and protection from ground-dwelling predators. For millions of years, this life strategy was very successful. But the Earth is a planet of constant change. Continents continued to shift, ocean currents altered, and the global climate began a long-term trend of cooling and drying. For life, change means challenge, but it also presents opportunity. As the vast forests gave way to more open landscapes, a new food source became available on the ground: roots, tubers, and low-lying shrubs. For some sloth species, the temptation of the world below was too great to ignore. This was an evolutionary leap of faith. Leaving the safety of the canopy was a risky gamble. The ground was rife with new predators. But the rewards were well worth it. The first sloths to set foot on the ground entered a whole new culinary world. Their claws, once adapted for clinging to branches, now became perfect digging tools. Their bodies began to change. Adaptation occurred slowly, over thousands of generations. Individuals with slightly stronger hind legs could stand more firmly. Those with slightly tougher claws could dig more effectively. Gradually, a new lineage was forged. They were no longer climbers. They had become terrestrial specialists. Their limbs grew massive and powerful, no longer suited for grasping branches, but for supporting an ever heavier body. Their teeth also transformed, becoming better suited for grinding tough, gritty vegetation. During the Miocene, about 15 million years ago, the diversity of ground sloths exploded. There were dozens of different species of all sizes, from as small as a dog to as large as a bear. Some were specialized burrowers, others were omnivores. They successfully occupied a wide range of ecological niches across the South American continent. Among them was one particular lineage, a lineage that began to walk the path toward gigantism. They were the direct ancestors of Megatherium. They were accumulating the necessary traits, preparing for the grandest performance in their history. The revolution on the ground was complete. The next stage was the rise of a dynasty. As the Pliocene began, about 5 million years ago, the world was ready for the emergence of true giants. The grasslands and savannas were expanding, providing a nearly limitless food source. For herbivores, this was a golden age, and in this world, large size offered undeniable advantages. Being bigger meant you had a larger digestive system, able to more efficiently process tough, low-quality plants. Being bigger meant you could store more energy, helping you survive periods of scarcity. And most importantly, being bigger meant you were a much harder target. For most predators, attacking an animal the size of a moving boulder was a suicidal act. The evolutionary arms race had begun, and for the Megatheriidae family of sloths, the winning strategy was simple: gigantism. And here is the pinnacle of that race, the masterpiece of millions of years of evolution: Megatherium americanum. Its name means great beast from the Americas, and it more than lived up to the title. This was not just a scaled-up version of its ancestors. It was a completely new design, a biological machine fine-tuned for dominance. Look at its skeleton. It wasn't designed for speed, it was designed for power. The spine, reinforced by those unique xenarthran joints, formed a massive suspension bridge. The pelvis was incredibly broad and robust, serving as the foundation for the entire structure. And here was its greatest secret: the tail. The tail of Megatherium wasn't just for balance, it was a third leg. Thick, heavy, and muscular, it formed a solid prop, a perfect tripod, allowing Megatherium to free its two forelimbs. This changed the game entirely. It was no longer just a four-legged creature. It could become a towering two-legged biped. Even the way it walked was special. Fossil footprints reveal that it walked on the sides of its hind feet, much like some sumo wrestlers. Why? To keep the deadly claws of its forelimbs off the ground, ensuring they remained in peak condition. These claws were its multi-tool. They were hooks to pull down branches, picks to dig for roots, and when necessary, fearsome swords for self-defense. So, what did a monster like this eat? For a long time, scientists debated, but evidence from its tooth structure and incredible discoveries of fossilized dung have given us the answer. Its teeth lacked hard enamel, better suited for crushing soft leaves than tough grasses. It was a selective browser. It didn't bend down to graze. It stood up, reached high, and pulled the entire plant world down to it. With its phenomenal power, it could topple trees that no other herbivore could reach. In doing so, Megatherium wasn't just feeding, it was an ecosystem engineer. It created clearings in forests, allowing sunlight to reach the ground. promoting the growth of new plants and creating habitats for countless other creatures. Its very existence reshaped the landscape of South America. The reign of the giant had truly begun. The life of a Megatherium unfolded to a different rhythm, a rhythm of slowness and grandeur. Each day was a solitary journey across vast territories, a relentless search for the hundreds of kilograms of foliage needed to fuel its massive biological engine. It had no need to hurry. Time itself seemed to slow down for a creature of such scale. It was likely a solitary creature, only encountering others during the mating season. Its colossal size was the clearest statement of its dominance. Most other creatures kept a safe distance, a respectful deference to its latent power. But this world was not peaceful. Even a giant had enemies. Smilodon, with its dagger-like canine teeth, was a constant threat. But confronting a full-grown Megatherium was another challenge entirely. By simply standing up, it transformed itself into an impenetrable wall of flesh and fur. A single swipe from one of those arms could break the spine of any predator. The message was clear: stay away from me. For millions of years, this defensive strategy allowed Megatherium and its kin to reign in safety. But no dynasty is eternal. The reign of Megatherium lasted for millions of years. But it would face an enemy that not even size and strength could overcome: change. As the last ice age finally drew to a close, the Earth's climate became violently unstable. Rapid shifts in temperature and rainfall completely disrupted the ecosystems upon which Megatherium depended. Their food sources became scarcer and more unpredictable. And then a new element, an unprecedented predator, arrived on the scene. They did not have the claws or fangs of a Smilodon, but they possessed something far more dangerous: intelligence, cooperation, and ranged hunting technology. They were humans. The first hunters of the Americas faced a world of monsters, and they learned how to survive. They were master strategists. Alone, a human was nothing against a Megatherium, but together a hunting party could achieve the impossible. The dual pressure of a collapsing environment and a new, hyper-effective predator became a death sentence. Around 10,000 years ago, the last heavy footfalls of the giant ground sloth fell silent forever. A magnificent chapter in the history of life had closed. The giant had fallen. Today, Megatherium no longer walks the earth, but its story is not forgotten. Its legacy is preserved in stone, in colossal skeletons that defy our imagination. Every excavated fossil is a page opened from a burned library, allowing us to read the tales of a lost world. Thanks to science, we can reconstruct its appearance, its life, and its world. We know what it ate, how it moved, and the challenges it faced. The story of Megatherium is a powerful reminder of the wonder of evolution, the ability of life to create such diverse and spectacular forms from the humblest of beginnings. It is also a cautionary tale, a lesson in extinction. It shows that even the largest and most dominant creatures can be erased from the planet when their world changes too quickly. Their fall is a warning sent from the past, echoing to this day as we face environmental changes of our own making. And its final legacy, still living, exists quietly in the canopies. When you look at a modern sloth, small, slow, and gentle, remember that in the veins of this humble creature flows the blood of giants. It is a tiny surviving glimmer of a glorious age, a distant echo of the greatest beasts that ever walked the South American continent. Their story has ended, but the lessons they leave behind will endure through time. What do you think about the incredible journey of the giant ground sloth? Which feature of Megatherium impresses you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you love stories about the prehistoric world, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.